Kenobi Episode 5. What to say about it? Well, this thing is near perfect. They almost got everything you could imagine you'd want in this. A lot of great Anakin, a lot of great Obi. Riva was really decent, and they were combining genres very well. The Western, a little bit of horror, camera angles, very creative. Even with the confined space, they found some pretty creative moments in terms of the camera work as well as lighting. But I can't give this a 10 out of 10 or any near perfect score like a 9 out of 10 because it did look cheap in certain places. And there are certain plot contrivances with Leia saving everyone near the end that was a little overdone. If they had spent a little bit more money, yeah, this thing would be pretty much near perfect. There's really not much to fault at all, really. The performances, the writing, directing. Again, the problem is production value prevents this from being like a Snyder cut, like epic, grandiose, heroic, mythical jamboree. So it is just really, really good, really great, but production value really drove down the score. So what is happening? Well, Obi's being hunted. He's backed into the corner, and it looks like it's over. Riva is about to do the final killing blow, but mega super double twist. Riva is not who she appears to be, and I'm trying to keep this non-spoiler. And I would say legitimately, you don't really need to know what Riva's up to, although that leads to the final battle at the end of this episode, which obviously will involve Vader, but I don't want to ruin because I think they do leave open, and it was really tantalizing. Oh, I think these people will team up, and they kind of do, but it then goes in a different direction. You're like, oh, that was intriguing, interesting. But let's just say a lot of questions and controversies and worries people have are wholly resolved in this episode. They really definitively answer a few things finally. So a lot of things that people thought were plot holes or problems, they're not plot holes, they're not problems. The canon, I've been saying this from the beginning, there have been no canon violations. Are they bending things or are they introducing tensions into the canon? Yeah, I think that's a legitimate debate, but there's no canon violation, there's no contradictions between prequels and original trilogy, at least from here. There are contradictions between these trilogies onto themselves, but that's another discussion. But Kenobi's not introducing any problems. I wonder how they will try to sidestep the Luke cameo. That seemed pointless and needless, but I get it. Everybody likes Luke. I don't even mind seeing young Luke. I just think it's kind of a needless complication. But in terms of the other substantive subplot, which is really the Anakin Kenobi relationship, I thought that was well done. It does look cheap. You can't get around that. We do see Anakin as Hayden Christensen, his full face and his full body. And the saber fighting they did in this episode was remarkable. I've been very critical of the way they did the saber fighting in the prequels for various reasons. It seems a little too contrived, overly fancy. It doesn't match up the originals because the lightsabers were way more heavy in the original trilogy. But putting that all aside, it doesn't match the Darth Maul greatness, but it does avoid the Revenge of the Sith kind of over the top silliness. So I thought for what they were trying to do, it made a whole lot of sense. And also, it's something you're going to go back to a long time because you're like, what is Anakin up to, or what does he want to do? And yes, they lay it on a little thick in terms of explicitly tying it to the themes and the concerns of this episode, but it made sense that the characters would talk to one another in that way. The rapport and the banter back and forth made sense, so it really resonated pretty well. Again, I think people, for whatever reason, were very critical of Kenobi that there's not enough Anakin, there's not enough Vader. This is not his series. I understand that this is what the fans want, but I think they made the right choice to focus just enough on Kenobi and let in all these other characters. Really spectacular episode. Very little to find fault in. You can probably nitpick certain plot beats and certain rhythms with the way certain things are edited. Like one thing, which I didn't find was a major problem, like how or why the stormtroopers bother to arrest Kenobi. Like you're like that was really not necessary because he has the Force. They've seen him use the Force on the base, so if he didn't want to get captured, he wasn't going to get captured. If he surrendered, he surrendered. Why bother going through the formality? So there are things like stylistically wonder there's no point to doing that. You also kind of wonder why Vader kind of teased certain subordinates. Like you have to be like, why bother prolonging the agony? But maybe that's just his psychology. And he did move a little slow. I will say that in the final fight, that felt a little weird. I guess they're trying to match that up to the original trilogy. He can't move too fast, otherwise that would be weird. Yeah, some minor things to nitpick here and there, but they're fairly surface level. In terms of the core plot, core story, core characters, very excellent. I wish I could give this a perfect score, but yeah, certain parts did look really bad. They have just a limited budget with the special effects, and in some parts it did play a critical part of the story. So gonna have to give this a very high score, but still not perfect score. 8.65 for Kenobi, and it makes me very excited of how they're gonna bring this all together with the final chapter.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme,
Hmm.
every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.